My name is Michelle Carrar. I'm a education abroad advisor in the Office of International Education at URI. And this is part of our International Education Week series of events. International Education Week is a joint initiative between the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of Education. This week, URI is super excited to have so many opportunities. I think we had about 40 events between Monday and tomorrow, Friday, for students to explore the variety of opportunities, as well as the benefits that international education and exchanges bring to them for a global environment, and also the exchange the other way, bringing in future leaders from overseas to study, learn, and exchange experiences with our students. So definitely a whole bunch of different events in relation to cultural exchange, cultural awareness, and certainly study abroad is one of those. We also have some events in regards to funding. So students who are interested in learning about scholarship, funding for opportunities while they're students, as well as post-graduation or at the graduate level. We have opportunities for that as well. So certainly check out all of the other IEW events, but I'm going to pass this over to Maura and Jess to go ahead and begin their presentation.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Hi, welcome everyone. As Michelle mentioned, I'm Jess. I'm currently a senior here at the University of Rhode Island, studying psych and criminal justice. I did study abroad this past spring 2020 semester in Prague, Czech Republic. I'm also currently the AIFS ambassador for the URI campus. So I'm always here to answer any of your questions. This session isn't too AIFS specific, but of course you're always welcome to email me. I will drop my email in the chat. I'm also always here to answer any additional study abroad questions, of course, in addition to Michelle and the rest of the study abroad office staff. So yeah, as I mentioned before, I studied abroad in Prague. So did my fellow panelist here, Gabriella. So yeah, and Maura graciously offered to be our moderator for this event, just so I could share more to the discussion. So yeah, I know Prague is a slowly growing study abroad destination among URI students. So we just wanted to share our experiences, stories, answer any questions, all of that good stuff. So yeah, I'll pass it along to Maura and Gabby if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then we can go ahead and get started.
Great, thanks. I am Maura Castles. I'm the Regional Vice President of University Relations for the Northeast region for AIFS Abroad. And what that means is I work with students in the Northeast to help them in their initial stages through events or on-campus programming. This year it's virtual programming, so I've been doing some advising for URI students and students across the country, actually, virtually. And we also will come together for virtual events such as this during IEW. At URI, we've done some great things already. We had an art history walk through Florence, Italy. We also had an information session last night. So if you're interested in just getting some general information about AIFS, I recommend that you check out some of those sessions that we've already held and recorded. We're also going to be holding general information sessions on Wednesdays throughout the spring. So if you just had some questions about getting the process started, come find us between 4 and 6 p.m. You can find that information on our website. We'll drop that in the chat as well, so you can follow up there. Again, I've been working with AIFS for about 7.5 years now. I love the job that I get to do because I get to work both with students as well as with universities on their overall needs, on meeting any goals that they have as a university, on talking about strategy for ways forward, on figuring out, what needs aren't being met and what we can do to help. And basically I get to be a problem solver all day, every day. That's my love and the thing that that speaks to me in my role. And study abroad for me was the thing that brought me to that place where I got to say, you know, when I studied abroad, I realized this was a field that somebody could actually have a professional pathway to, you know, and so it became really important to me. So this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm so glad that I get to be here today to moderate this session. I say we learned a little bit about Jess. Why don't we start the session by learning about Gabby?
Hello, everybody. My name is Gabby DeAngelis, and I'm a student at Worcester State University in Massachusetts. I'm a junior. I am majoring in communication, focusing in media production with a minor in theater as well. So it's a fun little mix of things. I am an AIFS Alumni Ambassador. Just like Jess, we both studied abroad together in spring 2020 in Prague. And I'm really glad to be here chatting with some of you all, some URI students, and hopefully some Worcester State students will also find this to be a very useful resource. I also work in the Worcester State International Programs Office, and I have been there for 3 years. So I really do love just kind of blabbering on about study abroad and all of our various opportunities. So like just said, while this isn't a AIFS specific panel, I'm glad to chat about them. I'm glad to chat about Prague always, as this panel is about. And I'm glad to just talk about study abroad, specifically at Worcester State in general as well. So I will also drop my email in the chat just in case anybody is looking for me.
Fantastic. I love it. Let's start with Jess. Jess, can you tell us why you chose to study abroad in Prague?
Yeah, of course. So I always get this question all the time, and I feel like I don't really have a specific reason or answer. Just when I was researching cities, I was kind of like going through the list, and I came across Prague, and just something about Prague stuck out to me. It was just very unique and different. Not anything against any other European city, but it just something stuck out to me. It was just very, very unique. I also heard that it was very cheap there. So that was definitely a pro. And of course, once I got there, I realized that all of the stereotypes were true. It is very cheap. And it also was very centrally located. I knew that I wanted to do a lot of traveling while I was abroad. So having it be centrally located definitely made it easier to be able to take weekend trips and all of that.
Yeah. Were there any surprises when you were there? Were there any things that you thought you were going to get that you didn't quite get when you were there?
I don't want to say there's any surprises. I don't know. I don't want to say there was any surprises. I think kind of everything that I heard was kind of very true. Definitely though, culture shock in general and all of that with studying abroad and going abroad and all of that. That of course was real, but
yeah. How about you, Gabby? What made you choose Prague as a study abroad location, and maybe why did you study abroad in general?
First of all, I definitely have to agree with all the points that Jess made. Like, definitely, it was affordable, it was super central as well, and it's just a unique city to be in. It's so beautiful, like architecturally, and there's so much history there. But at the same time, it's just like such a vibrant city full of like people who are always like hustle and bustle. Like, it's not just a historical place to be, it's also like a very exciting place to be. One other reason I definitely chose Prague was because of the courses offered there. A lot of them fit with my communication major, which was super awesome. I was able to check off a couple major requirements while I was abroad. So that was definitely something like very exciting to me. But back to your other question, definitely why I chose to study abroad. I had always wanted to study abroad. It was always on my list every time I went on like a college tour as, you know, a high school junior or senior. It was just something I definitely always wanted to do and kind of expand my horizons and go out there like on my own and be able to kind of meet like a community of people, which I definitely feel like I accomplished as I'm here today chatting with you both and having a lovely time.
I love that. I love that. Well, two things there. One, I definitely want to loop back to the courses, and so we'll get there a little bit later. But you might not know this. About 80-ish, a little over 80% of high school grads say that they want to study abroad, and in reality, it ends up being under 10%. So you the fact that you've taken this sort of desire to study abroad and really crystallized it into something that you know, wanted to do and thought through the process of doing and then ended up doing, that speaks volumes, you know. It's really like, you know, we talk about in preparation for interviewing and things, we talk about star stories. I saw a task, I made a plan, I carried it through, and I had a result. You know, it's like it's you know, it's one big star story there. I think that it sort of goes into the process of it. Did you find that it was a pretty straightforward process to go through applying for and the process of starting your applications and things? Did you find that you had a lot of support to do it?
Yeah, I thought it was very easy. Study abroad office, of course, helped me through it all. Once I met with like academic advisors, financial aid office, all of that, it was a very straight through process. Again, like I said, URI makes it very easy, and so does AIFS. Kind of very straight through. You just apply with URI, and then you apply with AIFS, and then they kind of go back and forth, and it all becomes kind of one process. But yeah.
So if you think you might want to do it, don't let the steps prevent it. Okay, back to Prague. What was your typical day like in Prague? And maybe the two of you can both sort of speak to this, because I know that you shared a lot of time there. So you know, whoever would like to answer this, go ahead.
Definitely. I can start. We would kind of wake up, and in our little dorm building, we had a continental breakfast in the morning, which was really nice and sweet to kind of be able to wake up and see some of the other students in the dorm before we all like started our day together. Maybe you bumped into somebody in the same class as you at breakfast and you could kind of walk to class together, which was always really nice. So we would always walk down to our tram stop. So a tram is kind of like an above ground, not subway, but like an above ground transportation system with cables that kind of run across the city. And it was really beautiful to kind of sit in the tram in the morning. It was maybe like a 10-minute ride just like through the city to our classes, which was always so nice and like calming in the morning almost. The trams were very quiet. Czech people are very quiet. So you just kind of like sat and observed. Maybe you were doing some quick reading before class if you were a little bit behind. If you had time, maybe stop for coffee in the morning and then walk over the bridge over the Vltavas River to class, which is always a great experience. And then I'll toss it to Jess to talk about kind of class and after class experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we'd have class. In between class, I tend to either get lunch with friends. I'd go sit at a coffee shop. The building itself was kind of in like the central part of Prague, so it was very easy. There were so many different restaurants and coffee shops within like a block. So yeah, I would stop, go get lunch, go finish out my classes for the day, and then I'd usually get out, either head back to the dorm and make dinner. In our dorm, we did have like a little kitchen in my suite that I was in. So yeah, we'd either cook together with my suite mates, or we'd go out to eat, try a different Czech meal every day. Um, and yeah, and we'd usually just head out for the night, either just walk around, explore, or participate in one of the cultural events that AIFS was offering. They did do a lot of really cool things. We got to see a ballet, an opera. Trying to think what else. I think we did a couple dinners together. So just anything like that. It just was so perfect being right in the middle of the city and really being able to explore right after class. So that was great.
Yeah, and you both did the program at Charles University. So Charles University, I remember my first time visiting the city and visiting the university. We were in this, you know, beautiful historic area, and you know, you can see the Prague Castle and the bridges there, and we're stopping in front of this gorgeous building, and my colleague says, "Oh, we're here," and I said, "This is it. This is the," and it's this just absolutely beautiful building. And it's really, as you say, very, very central. So I just was really shocked to see that this was the building that students would go to every day. It was like part of this gorgeous historic central area. So I just thought how students were so lucky to be able to go there every single day. There are also opportunities to take courses at the University of Economics. Did you have any friends who did courses there, who took their program there?
Yeah, we did know a couple people. We all kind of met together and did like cultural events together, but they did go to a separate university, like the School of Economics. It was a little bit outside of Prague, so they were in their own dorms. We didn't see them too much, but I know they did enjoy that. They really liked the school. They talked highly of the program and all of that. So
yeah. So for students who are planning their programs, they just want to make sure that they're looking at courses that are at one or the other. Unfortunately, Prague is one of the places that they're going to need to be taking all of their courses at one or the other. So just something to keep in mind. Let's see. What was it like learning the Czech language?
Okay, I can definitely chat about that. I actually really enjoyed learning the Czech language. We did a 2-week intensive Czech language course that everybody had to take. It counted for 3 credits back at Worcester State, which was super awesome because it was only 2 weeks. But it was kind of like 5 hours every day, like Monday through Friday. And we were in like a small group, maybe like 15 students or so, and we all did like really basic Czech language and just like fast, quick, anything you could possibly need. Our professor was so nice. We played little games, we did little like role plays. Like she would go pretend like you're trying to ask out that pretty girl over there. And it was always so fun and useful. And I genuinely did feel like I absorbed the language really well. She would take us out onto walks throughout the city and say, now go ask the store clerk how much this costs. So you knew you were like using it in real life. And the people of the Czech Republic genuinely do appreciate, even if you're stumbling through your words, if you try to use their language. They really respect that you're trying to absorb the culture as much as possible, even if you might sound like a little bit silly.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Of course, I was a little rusty. I wasn't really too familiar with the language, but I did try to use it throughout the semester when ordering and all of that. And I do agree. I always say that you can tell that they're very appreciative that you're trying to learn the language and all of that. And of course, I didn't take language throughout the rest of the semester, but I did have a couple of friends that did choose to do that option. So in addition to the extensive language course that we took in the beginning, they also did take another Czech class throughout the semester that I know really helped them grow even more on their vocabulary and all of that. So
excellent. On the topic of classes, what were the classes you both took while you were abroad?
Yeah, so I took 4 classes in addition to the Czech language course. Um, I would say that probably my favorite was this one called Alternative Cultures. Basically, we just discussed like the emergence of music in the Czech Republic and different styles like, pop and hipster and all of that. And I just thought it was so interesting to see Prague and the Czech Republic in that different light that I definitely wouldn't have experienced without taking that class. I know in particular, like the first couple of weeks, my friends and I went to this like music club type thing, and they were playing all this like punk rock music and all of that. And actually, a couple of weeks later, we were having a discussion in class, and our professor started telling us about this like club and how it was so popular and how like this history of it and why it was so important to Prague and the community and all of that. So it was just very cool to see those different perspectives that I wouldn't have gotten without taking the class. I also did take this social justice and literature class that just really helped me personally in like my own major and career and all of that. In the class, we kind of discussed social issues both in the US and in the Czech Republic, compared and contrasted like similarities and differences. And I know a lot of the topics that we discussed in class, I already knew from at home and vice versa and all that. So it was really cool to see that overlap and be able to take, what I learned there and bring it home in my classes this semester. So found it very helpful.
Yeah, and I also took 4 classes plus the intensive Czech language course, which they didn't overlap. You did the Czech language course first, and then you jumped into your full semester, so you don't have to worry about being very like overwhelmed or anything like that. It was very like spread out and easy to do. But my favorite class I took was definitely Czech New Wave Cinema. Like I said, I'm a communication major with a concentration in media production. So this counted towards my major, which was super awesome. And we watched lots of different Czech films from the New Wave, which was a time period in the 60s when a lot of the Czech Republic was still under communist rule. So a lot of films were very monitored closely by the government. But this chunk of films, these were a bunch of artists who were able to go to one of the most famous film production schools in Europe or in all of the world called FAMU. And they received kind of special treatment where they were able to view banned films and create any type of media that they wanted to. So like we really got to deep dive into this like very experimental and exciting time period within film, specifically in the Czech culture, but a lot of it also bled into, specific American cultures. A lot of the films that we watched received Oscars and things like that. So it was super exciting to like consume so much different media and have like very exciting conversations about it. I felt like everybody in the class was very passionate and excited to talk about these things, as I am. I talk about them all the time. I came home and made my friends watch a couple of the films. Like they're just so interesting and intriguing to watch when you really kind of think about the context of it all. But yes, other than that, I did also take a class called the Sociology of Food, which is always exciting to talk about food and Czech food specifically. We made Czech potato pancakes after we were sent home from COVID, but we did make them at home all over Zoom, which was a really great experience. And I know my family appreciated the food. And then also Czech sociology of landscapes and Czech humor and culture, which were also very interesting courses.
Ooh, I think that last one in particular, I think I would be really, really interested in. But I'm thinking in so many different directions from that. I find that one of my favorite things about speaking with students who've studied abroad is that having studied abroad gives them kind of a greater connection, not just to their study abroad location, but to the location, to the greater world. It was just the 31st, I believe, anniversary of the Velvet Revolution. Did you have a lot of social media popping up that you felt particularly connected to, given that just coming through?
Yeah, absolutely. I know I follow like a lot of people that obviously started abroad with me, and then like AIFS in Prague and all of that. And I know they posted so many things about the Velvet Revolution because, when I was there, you could tell that they were very like proud of like their country and their like freedoms and all of that. That's something that they really take, they don't take that lightly. And that was really something that I've never experienced with any other country. So yeah, you could tell that through my classes and just being there and talking with the locals and all of that, that they really do, appreciate all of the things that they've, went through, but it made them stronger in so many other ways. So
do you think that overall your sense of connection to the greater world has changed through having had a study abroad experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I definitely stepped out of my comfort zone, as I'm sure you've heard so many students who study abroad say that, but it really is true. You're kind of in this little bubble at home, and when you have the opportunity to go abroad and study abroad, it really does make you appreciate, what you have back at home, but also appreciate other cultures and other countries so much differently. So
yeah, I love it. Let's talk a little bit about the local community. What were the locals like? What was it like to engage with local communities sort of overall, just, out and about, but also did you make local friends? What was it like to interact with, the resident staff, but also folks your own age? Tell me all about the people you met, basically.
The people there are honestly some of the kindest people I have ever met. There is a stereotype that Czech people are very kind of like quiet and reserved, which is definitely very true in public. They're very reserved people. But once you really like warm up to these people and like I said, just try speaking to them in their language, they're so excited to share with you about their culture. Like they, like Jess said, they are just so proud of where they come from in their history. And it is so nice to kind of sit down and really listen to somebody. Our resident director, Renata, was one of the best Czech locals I've ever met. She was so glad to answer any questions we had and share her own personal stories. She was there during the Velvet Revolution. Like it was just, she was so impressive to listen to. All of the AIFS staff there are so excited to share with students like more about their city specifically. And I also had a Czech buddy, which I signed up for through Charles University. We did a little buddy program, and her name was Bara, and she was so sweet and also right around our age. So she was really great to kind of ask. We chatted a lot about like pop culture and where to go out to. And she sent me little links and things to places and events that she thought I might find interesting, like different theaters and stuff like that. So that was definitely super great and helpful. Hopefully I can, go back and see her one day. That would be very cool. But yeah, the locals there were just so fantastic. I really can't rave about them enough.
Yeah, I definitely agree with literally everything you said. Yeah, they are very quiet, very reserved. I know my first time stepping on the tram and seeing how quiet it was, I was just not used to that. Obviously, like going to Boston and New York City and all these things. That was definitely something I wasn't used to. But as you get to like know more locals and talk to more locals, you can really see that they are some of the kindest and nicest people that you'll ever meet. Like I said, very, very proud of their country and nationalism and all of that. Yeah, basically everything Gabby said, just amazing, amazing people.
Yeah, I mentioned this yesterday, I think, on our info session, Jess, but it ties in very well with what we're speaking of now. I was meeting with Renata when I was in Prague, and every time I tried to say one thing in Czech, she would just be my own personal cheerleader. She would just cheer me on, and I was probably just saying thank you or hello or goodbye, and she would just, she was so cute. So I just felt that warmth and that love, and yes, of course at first she was very reserved, and I was her colleague, but it very quickly progressed into this really beautiful, lovely, warm friendship. And I got to visit her more as a friend recently, and it was just this beautiful friendship that we now have. So it was great. So I understand exactly what you mean about the people. So did you get a chance to you talked about this important punk bar or punk club that you mentioned. Did you get a chance to see, because I feel like the club and restaurant and cafe culture in Prague is really important. Did you get a chance to really engage in that? I know that we, for example, have some activities and excursions that involve, cafe and cake, like coffee and cake afternoons, where we take students to really I mean, this sounds so funny to say, but mindfully eat cake. Really go and mindfully like have an experience where you're surrounded by this really intentional, beautiful setting, and eat this really beautifully made cake and beautifully made coffee, and just and can you tell us if you were able to have that experience? I know your experiences were both sort of curtailed this past spring.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think Gabby, I'm pretty sure you went on the like cafe thing with me. I can't remember. But yeah, we actually did have the chance to do that. We went to this beautiful cafe. It was in this like historic landmark. I think it was some like king's castle or something. So it was just this whole redone, beautiful building, beautiful architecture. The cake is amazing. Obviously, all the food there is just so good. Goulash is just so good. There's this thing called like fried cheese. It's kind of like a mozzarella stick, but like it's just so good. All of the food there is amazing. All of the restaurants and like locations and just all of the architecture is beautiful too. There is so much like historic landmarks like Prague Castle, Wenceslas, all of those type of things are just so beautiful and unique. Just experience. I don't know if Gabby wants to add anything.
Yeah, it's definitely a very like important part of Czech culture, like cafe and like bar or pub culture. We did also go one night to with Renata. We went out and we went out for like a little dinner at this restaurant pub that she picked out. And then we walked down, like we kind of walked around Prague at nighttime, and Renata took us into this very like hidden little old-timey Czech club, I guess you could call it. I don't know if it was a club, but it was filled with so many like Czech locals, so many older Czech locals, and they were all dancing around and singing to like traditional Czech music. And it was just one of those experiences where you stand there and you're like, oh my goodness. And like Renata was just so excited to show us this like beautiful part of their culture and how everybody was just there in like celebration and enjoying themselves. And you could tell they were like such a nice community, and it was so hidden, like almost underneath Charles Bridge, which is such a funny place to be hidden that, you know, you would think people would know about it, but not many people did. And Renata kind of took us around to this little back door, and it was such a good experience. Like I remember it so vividly, but it's definitely like a very important part of their like social culture, which is very cool.
I do love that. And I love that I mean, she's lived her whole life in the Czech Republic, and she really just loves sharing that culture with, with the students who come to see her. And she also has, she has two daughters, so she has a really close connection to what university age students are interested in, the types of things that they're interested in. We also have Jenny, who works in our office, and Jenny is she is Filipino Canadian, but she is married to a Czech man, and her Czech is probably almost as good as Renata's at this point, according to Renata. And so she's really, really closely connected to the Czech community as well. And so I think she has a really close line to sort of what are young Czech people doing. And I remember when I visited, she was the one who was able to tell me about, what is the music festival going on this weekend? What is the cool thing that's happening? Where can I find? She told me about these outdoor movie festivals that were happening, and I felt like it was a great balance between this, really great long-standing Czech culture and also like what are the young people doing, and I got a great view of kind of both sides of that coin. So I thought they were both a really great influence on my experience. Talking a little bit about sort of free time, tell me what your weekends were like. Tell me what you did outside of class time during your free time. Did you have any chances to travel? Again, I know this wasn't the normal semester, but tell me a little bit more about what you did when you weren't in Prague, if there was any time like that.
Yeah, so I did have the chance take a couple weekend trips with Gabby actually too. We went to Paris and Copenhagen. Those are two very, very different cities. Obviously very different from Prague, but also very beautiful to see. I was so grateful we had the chance to go. But also the weekends that we were in Prague were equally as amazing. Being able to see all of like the famous sites and hang out with new people, all of that. With AIFS, we did take a weekend trip to Moravia in the beginning. Moravia is kind of like a little part outside of Prague, like in the eastern side of the Czech Republic. And yeah, we had the chance to go as a group. We got to meet everyone, like in AIFS group a little bit better. Got to know everyone a little bit better. We had a chance to see the Czech Republic outside of the city, which is also really nice. As much as I loved Prague, it was really nice to step out for a weekend and see all the beautiful like landscapes. And we went to like the Moravian caves and all these beautiful, amazing things that I wouldn't have seen just being in Prague. So we kind of got the best of both worlds, being able to travel, but also having the chance to like stay in Prague and be in the Czech Republic some weekends. Yeah.
I love it. Anything to add, Gabby, to that?
Yeah, Moravia is definitely one of those things that like places that just stands out. Like we had such a lovely time in Moravia. Like Jess said, we went with everybody from AIFS. So we were with the economic students, the Charles U students, and then the entire AIFS staff. And we ate dinner in this really beautiful wine cellar. And we had a bunch of birthdays within the AIFS staff. So it was celebratory with Jenny and Z and Renata and everyone there. And we played traditional Czech music, and Renata taught us fun little Czech dances. And it was just like I said, another one of those experiences that just sticks out. Like Moravia was absolutely beautiful. We went in the underground caves. We went in a little boat and we traveled through caves, which is like a bucket list, like lifetime experience. It was definitely one of my favorite weekend trips. And like Jess said, it was included with the whole AIFS package. So that was really awesome because I don't know if we would have kind of done that on our own.
I think if you talk to any AIFS in Prague alum of the last 15, 20 years and say, oh, do you remember Z? Their response is invariably going to be Z. Tell us about Z.
So yeah, Z has been, I think he was on the AIFS Prague staff for like 20 years, 25. I feel like even more than that. Yeah, he's worked with them for ages. He basically kind of like was our tour guide. Obviously, he has so much history and knowledge of the Czech Republic and Prague in general. So like certain weeks, he'd take us on walks to certain like famous monuments and all of that. So we went to like Prague Castle, which is probably my favorite. I think that's a must. Anytime you're in Prague, it's just so beautiful and just such amazing architecture and all of that. So yeah, he would take us to different monuments and landscape. And of course, like I probably would have seen these just like normally being in Prague and studying abroad there. But it was amazing to get his knowledge because obviously he knew a lot more than you could just read on the internet. He knew a lot of deeper stories and all of that. So he was always willing to share his knowledge with us. Yeah, I don't know if Gabby has anything to add.
Yeah, Z is absolutely wonderful. He really was like our own personal like key to the city. Like he was so excited when students would show up to his like tours to different places. Like he was just so excited to tell you more and more. Like you can tell he just like is one of those people who loves what he does. And like I said, like the Czech people are so excited to share their stories. So we went to, like Jess said, Prague Castle. We went to the old Jewish quarter, which is conveniently located right next to our classroom building, like right next to it. Like Jess said, we're directly in the center. And like Z's walks were definitely a must. Like you kind of carved out your time in the schedule to make sure that you could go on to one of these tours with Z, which was super awesome. And he was just so happy to be around all the time.
I don't know how one human being carries so much knowledge in his mind. And some people know a lot about one thing. I'm pretty sure he knows a lot about almost anything you could ask him, especially if it has to do with Prague or the Czech Republic, but probably also if it has to do with anything. I mentioned at one point that I lived in Vermont, and he started just telling me all of the things about Vermont, and I thought it was so funny. So he, and he really connects because he cares about students, and he wants to know about them. And so I really, I think like all of our staff, he really just wants students to love being students in the Czech Republic as much as he loves hosting them there. So so he really makes it a priority to make sure that students have a good experience there. What was transportation like? You've already mentioned the trams a little bit. what was transportation like generally getting around the city? How was the city connected? How was it if you needed to get outside of the city? Tell me a little bit more about sort of transit and transit links.
Yeah, so Prague is kind of set up in districts almost. So like you have like Prague 1, which is like the center where we had classes and all of that. We were a little bit outside of the center in Prague 6, so we did have to take a tram and metro and all of that to get into the center. But again, it was probably only like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So yeah, I like taking the tram, especially like we have the tram and the metro. So the tram runs above ground and then the metro is underground. I like taking the tram because I thought it was beautiful just to go along the streets and be able to see everything, like especially in the mornings. I love people watching, so being able to watch everyone just running around and all of that, I thought that was super cool. Like I already said, it is very different than your traditional like public transportation systems in the US. Very quiet. Everyone kind of just keeps to themselves, puts in headphones, all of that. But yeah, I definitely loved the trams, being able to take that in the morning. I preferred that over the metro, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And Gabby?
Yeah, to echo what Jess said, they were like so on time and so clean. Like I really like we're all from kind of like the Boston area. We've all dealt with the T before, and it is just nothing can compare to the transportation systems in Prague. We had a little like app on our phone that would say when a tram or a metro was arriving, and it was always like there on the dot, like perfect timing every time, which was so very useful. We generally used it to like travel all within the city, but like Jess said, you could get to all of the like outer districts as well. So that was very useful if you kind of wanted to go. Sometimes we would just hop on a tram and kind of be like, okay, where are we going to get today? Oh my goodness, like that restaurant over there looks really cool. Let's get off here and just kind of like wander. So that was definitely like a really fun kind of thing to do in our spare time to absorb as much of the city as possible.
I love that. That was, that's one of my favorite things to do, to just kind of find out more, and what a great opportunity. Did you find that it was pretty affordable to use public transit?
Yeah, so actually with AIFS Prague program, we do have it included in our program costs. So that definitely helped us out a lot, not having to have that
Worry
additional
about it.
cost.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I forget what the exact prices were, but in general, I think for like the pass, it was very cheap. So
mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love, I mean, I agree with you. I think the tram is kind of the way to go whenever you can, because you get to kind of go around these cool
Mhm.
little streets and see everything, and check out all the buildings. I felt like when I was in the metro, I was in a sort of, mid-century spy novel, just because it was all sort of 60s and, very, very kind of, it was very cool too. It definitely had its own feel to it. Did you get a chance to use, like, did you go out, well, when you went to Paris or when you went to Copenhagen, how did you do that? Did you fly? I assume you flew. And then did you use public transit to get to the airport, or did you use a taxi?
I'm trying to think. I know a couple times we did use public transport. I know there was a tram that went like right there. Basically, I think we just had to take like a bus a couple of times depending on the time. But yeah, there was a public transport that went right there, super easy. It made traveling so much easier. So yeah, trams really do go everywhere. It's not just in the center of the city. They go very
All
far
over.
out. So that was helpful. Yeah.
Excellent. Any recommendations of places to eat or attractions to see? Some of your favorite spots?
Yeah, I would definitely say, I know I kind of already touched on this, but Prague Castle,
Your favorite?
definitely a must. I feel like you hear that from everyone in Prague, but it really is just so beautiful and just so huge. Like I went there and I didn't expect it to be this like massive. Also, I know I kind of already said this too, but if you have the opportunity, definitely try to go outside of Prague too. Prague is amazing, but it also is amazing to see like the landscapes outside of the city because it really is such a beautiful country. all the hills and lakes. It really is so, so beautiful. Food, I can't think of the restaurants at the top of my head, but definitely any cafe. They're all so amazing. The pastries there, coffee, just so amazing. And I know I already said goulash too is definitely a must try anytime you're in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, the food was so good. I'm definitely like a big fan of, like I said, dropping yourself at one point and just walking until you find somewhere like really good to eat. That was definitely how we found dinner quite a few times, which was always awesome. There were definitely like use your resources. Like if you know somebody in the area, ask them for a recommendation, and it's almost always delicious. We went to one cafe on our first night that we went back to a couple times that was within walking distance of our dorm. I cannot remember the name of it because it's a Czech name, but it was really, really good. And the food is very diverse there, which I wasn't exactly expecting. Like, it's not just only traditional Czech food. There was a lot of like Asian food and like all of the other different cultures. We went to one Mexican restaurant, which was like delicious. Like, we weren't expecting it to be so good in Europe, but like I vividly remember that quesadilla was bomb.
I love that. Our staff, of course, does keep well, in our student handbooks, there's going to be a selection of, for, $1 sign, you can go to these places, $2 signs, you can go to these places. And that's kind of like a, just in case you need a reference. And then of course, when you get on the ground, most of our program locations, including Prague, have kind of like a running list kept by alums of here were some of our favorite places. So, if students are, they get on the ground and they don't feel super comfortable just sort of like wandering, there are resources. But I think in Prague, especially with where our office is, especially with where the dorms are, you really literally cannot just stumble without coming onto something that is just delicious. I remember right across the street from the office, there was this amazing fresh pasta place that was maybe I don't know, it was something like $5, the equivalent of $5, and you would get this mound of delicious fresh pasta, and it was so good. A note about the about eating, that you will get a swipe card, right, with AIFS, so that you'll end up having basically a meal plan that takes the form of a debit card almost, and it will be loaded at the start, and then again it'll be reloaded kind of halfway through. So you can use that to eat in restaurants or to take money out of an ATM to use to pay in restaurants. A lot of times restaurants might be cash only, they might take card, but just to sort of kind of plan on that. But you can also then go and use that card or take cash out and buy groceries. And then, as you were saying earlier, you can buy those groceries and cook in your suites in your dorms. So you have a lot of options there, and that's included in the program. Did you find it was about half and half for eating in your dorms and eating in restaurants, or mostly eating in restaurants?
I did try to cook as much as I could. I did try to take advantage of having the kitchen, but it also was hard to walk by a restaurant and be like, you know what, I kind of just want to try that tonight.
I just want goulash.
Yeah, like why not? Like try something new. So
yeah,
I probably would say it was about like 50-50, I think.
Yeah. How about for both of you, one moment or memory from your time abroad that sticks with you, sort of your snapshot moment? Gabby, I know you already mentioned your underground club, or the club under the bridge, but was there something else that stuck with you as a snapshot as well?
Yeah, something tells me and Jess might have the same snapshot. Oh, excuse me, because we did spend quite a bit of time together, but I have it framed up on my wall over here actually. It was when we were in Paris. We were going to the Louvre for the night, and we were sitting and eating dinner, and we were like kind of waiting because there was a free student period to get into the Louvre, and we were kind of like waiting for the line to die down, and finally we walk over and we come up to the big, iconic glass triangular dome thing, and the sunset was just setting in the most perfect way over the Louvre. It was like the most beautiful, like pinks and purples and things. And we just stood there and we're like, oh my gosh, we're actually here. It was like one of those moments we were just looking at each other like, this timing could not be more perfect. Like, we all kind of got a postcard with the Louvre on it. Like, we took so many photos. Like, it was just an absolutely beautiful, like, the study abroad cliche moment.
Yeah, I was literally about to say the same thing. I think that was my favorite moment from abroad, was definitely that, just walking up, and literally the perfect moment. We always talked about this too, because we weren't even gonna go there at that time. Like, we ended up staying at the restaurant longer and all of that, and just was just so perfect, so beautiful. That was probably the prettiest sunset I think I've ever seen. But in general, like in Prague and in the Czech Republic, I think my favorite moment was that first weekend when we were in Moravia, when we had the chance to go to like the wine cellar. It was like a privately owned like family business. They had like the restaurant, the wine cellar, and all of that. And we had this like long table. There's probably like 40 of us sat like at it, and we were just sitting and eating and sharing stories and all of this and dancing and listening to music. I think that was probably like one of my favorite moments from abroad. Just everyone sharing this space and sharing this time together, getting to know everyone a little bit more. So that was definitely probably my other favorite moment from Prague.
I love that. That makes me really happy. I like those snapshot moments, those moments where you're like, I worked really hard to get here, and this is now, this is what came of it. This is now something I've gotten to experience. So you must have been really proud of yourself, and felt like you've gotten a really wonderful experience. So I'm really happy to hear that. In closing, I think we have time for maybe one more question, which is, do you have any advice for students who are planning to study abroad or visit Prague as students in the future? Anything you would recommend, or any thoughts or advice?
I would just say in general, like, do as much as you can, try to see as much as you can see. I know we're already saying this, but like, honestly, just hop on a tram and go some random place and get off and just walk around. I feel like that's the best opportunity to really experience the city, experience the culture and all of that. Just, there's so many little things about Prague that you just can't miss. So my advice, just do as much as you can, see as much as you can. Definitely.
Yeah. Gabby?
Yeah, we definitely learned like quite the lesson while we were in Prague, because we were sent home sadly. We learned like really take a minute and like experience every moment to the fullest. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, every single day I walked over the bridge to class, I would like look at Prague Castle and I'd go, like, remember this moment, remember that you're here. Like, every day I walked to class. So really like take in everything you can as much as possible and be like so grateful for those experiences, because they really are experiences that stick with you forever.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for your insight. I've been really, Prague is one of my favorite cities from the time I was a student, and even now. I have visited as a colleague. I love our program there. I love my colleagues there. I think from a classes perspective, it's one of the more diverse program locations. You can take a lot of courses, mostly going to be in the liberal arts, business kind of vein. There aren't going to be a ton of options for hard sciences, but aside from that, you're going to be able to find a huge range. You're going to find a ton of opportunities for every type of interest. If you want to volunteer, there are going to be volunteer opportunities. If you want to do a service learning opportunity, there are going to be some of those available as well. There's really just an unimaginable opportunity to really engage in the local community there. And as you said, the Czech folks are so warm and so welcoming and really, really want to share their culture with American students. I think as a student city, its affordability, it's centrally located, the fact that it's centrally located, the fact that it is just beautiful makes it really kind of like a sweet spot for students. And so I encourage people, if they are thinking about choosing Prague, one of the things that we do have to offer is the fact that we have 5 alumni ambassadors this year at AIFS who studied abroad in Prague. And so we have a lot of social media content right now that is dedicated to Prague and studying in the Czech Republic. So definitely check out our social media channels for more information. We've had Instagram lives and Instagram takeovers, both with Gabby and Jess, as well as with a couple of other alumni ambassadors. So definitely check that out. We have also done a coffee Q&A as well as an Instagram live with our resident directors, Renata and Jenny. So we have a lot of resources for students who are thinking of studying abroad in Prague. And with that, I would like to turn it back over to Michelle. If you have any closing information about IEW, anything from the URI perspective that you would like to add. Thank you so much for having us today.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you all for being here. We are thrilled to have this opportunity to explore Prague with you. And I would put out there to students that, AIFS offers a whole range of programs worldwide. So if you have interest in study abroad and you want to explore all your options, certainly feel free to contact our office at the Office of International Education. Also, we have a slew of additional events that are happening today and tomorrow for the remainder of International Education Week. And so we invite you to those as well. But thank you so much for your attendance. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you at some future events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much. Have a good one.
Bye.